Cheers, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to what's going to be a sweltering day here in Melbourne, Australia. 30-something degrees today. Hello, Algeria. Hello, Algeria. No, it's not going to be a long stream. So, thank you, Dutch Taurus. No, it's not going to be a long stream. It's going to be, it's about a long board. Long board. Rather than a long stream. Yeah. But a few people commented about the long in the stream name. So I'm showing chat. So Zabir, you haven't been here for ages. How you doing? Oh, people have got their names messed up again. Oh well. YouTube. Way to go. Yes, Zabir, I know, but you've got it twice in your name, so I said it twice. I'm good. It's been a shit week, but otherwise, doing okay. Doing okay. How are you? It's been a long while. See, we're back to these weird names. AJB 2K3. I'm sure I know who that is, but I don't know. Teletronics, hello. Sid, how you doing? Life in Cycling, hi. Beata, hello. Matt's here on time. What the? Crazy. Antonio, hello. No, just, terrorist attacks in Australia type of bad week. Yeah. Oh, is it? Okay, sorry. Because there's lots of people are getting their names. So welcome, AJB2K3. Sorry, a lot of YouTube's been replacing people's names with what? Mum said the T word. What? Oh, Sion said that. Okay. It's been replacing people's names with names and numbers. Anyway, I don't know. It's just messed up. It's hard to know. They keep all changing. All good. Life and cycling. All good. How you doing, Sean? Technubulus, hello. X-Micron, hi. Super Bruce. Bruce is here. I'm sure I missed people. Dutchorus, hello. Mr. England was first. He's always winning. Always. Did I miss anyone? That's why he's a super. Okay. Interesting. Error 404 workshop. Rota is here. Hello. Long time no see. Yeah. It's what everyone's on Christmas holiday break already, are they? So they're joining the stream. So to be clear with everyone, the flag is not a political statement. It's a statement of solidarity for those that aren't aware what happened here in Australia on Sunday. So it's I'm not taking the channel political. Finger on the buy button for the H2C. Wife's going to kill me. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't. Please don't do it. Don't buy a H2C. It's a pointless printer. Just don't. I don't have one. I've got no vested interest in it. It just doesn't make any sense. Okay, how I don't even know how to pronounce Tor Leaf Strand and is something. We're going to be doing some PCBing. I'm going to be making a long PCB. Long, and we need to give it a name. I prefer Super Bruce. Super Bruce, just perfect. Everyone should be super people. It's in the cart. I'm tempted. Makes one see is great. Yeah, here's the thing. You get no real added value with the H2C as far as I'm concerned, because it's just swapping a nozzle. You still got all the filament changes. Okay, so it gives you a little bit of a speed up, and it gives you, well, that's it. Like, really, the new what's it called, that update, the multi-head update for the Prusa 1 and the L or whatever it is, the tall one. That's the direction you want to go. If you want to do multi, you need to go multi-head, not nozzle switching. It just doesn't make any sense. No, they're not calling it an IDEX update, is it? What's the name of the company that makes the switchable heads? What are they called? They're partnered with? Oh, I can't remember. I can't retain all the information. Handling the Xmas. Have you been ID checked for TikTok? You know what? I'm proud to say I've never, ever had TikTok on a device. Never looked at TikTok. Never been interested in TikTok. I feel like I'm just so free as a human being after not have been sucked into TikTok world. Bontech, that's the one. Oh, Index. Right. I was thinking IDEX, like the twin thing. Right. Yeah, the Bontech stuff. Yeah. So that's the way you want to go. I mean, that's going to work out to be less than half the price of a Prusa XL with more heads and just more flexibility and opportunity. So yeah, I wouldn't go the H2C, honestly. I don't understand what it offers. If the filament stayed in it, sure. You know, anyway, a blood-sucking watch. What? TikTok, a blood-sucking mosquito. Funny chats. The Snapmaker looks pretty good, I have to say. You know, they came through, and they're shipping, aren't they? Right? The Kickstarter, they're shipping to backers, I believe. People have been getting them. Yeah, I've never been interested in TikTok, and I don't hang on Instagram. I've not used my Instagram account for a really long time. There's just all rubbish in social media. Yeah, I was actually I almost did the Kickstarter thing for the Snapmaker, and they had a track record of delivering, right? But yeah, I just wasn't sure. And as much as I want a multi-head machine, I don't need one. Most of the stuff I'm printing these days are either single color or two color for my Reflow Master Pro cases. I'd probably want to do more if I had multi-head, not multi, like proper multi-head, so I can do different filaments. I definitely would do multi-filament for supports and stuff, but I'm not doing as much 3D printing at the moment as I was before, so need is never a requirement for buying, I know, but need is an important part when there isn't enough funds for the buying, right? You can always squeeze the funds when you need it, or you can almost always, but if you don't need it, it's hard to justify the funds. Well, maybe for me. Hello, Dave Paul Jones. Here I can't buy anything until I can live. Is your shoulder still bad? Still recovering? Need, want, desire, all the same. Oh, must be nice to go to bed in a mattress full of $100 bills. Chris, like, yeah. I'm kidding. That's a dig. I have no idea of your financial situation. I would love to go to bed in a mattress full of $100 bills. Other filament stays in the HTC nozzles. So it's only. No, it doesn't. It completely removes the filament out, and it just switches the nozzle. No, it just goes back and does the same nozzle again for the same filament when it does the change. So the purging is less because you don't have to purge one filament out from another one. That's all. It saves a little bit of time, and they heat up quickly. But that's it. It's not a filament change. It's not a. Yeah, it's almost pointless, I believe. You know what? It's a lot of mechanical parts that can break and go wrong in a printer for the reviews I've seen and the gains people are getting. It's not no gain. I mean, there's a gain for sure. There's less wastage, less poop, and it is faster, but not by a huge amount. And maybe they can get it faster still. I don't know. Hello, Peter. Good morning. Surgeon said you're doing great. That's awesome. So it's just time, huh? Gotta wait. Vortex is complex. Yeah, no, it hasn't derailed the stream. Many of us are doing 3D printing and stuff. And I know Johnny. Is Johnny here? Johnny, hello, Johnny. I missed you coming in. Sorry. Johnny swears by his Excel. I mean, if I would have dropped the money on an Excel, assuming I didn't get a dud like some people did, then fine. But I've always wanted an Excel capability, but without the Excel price. And I think, you're looking at something like the Snapmaker or whatever, or something like the Bondtech stuff. I think the Bondtech stuff's a bit more interesting because it's not a printer company who's trying to sell printers with multi-heads. It's a company that's designing multi-head to fit on lots of different printers, and I think that's a bit more interesting. And then the fact that there are people working on different heads for the Excel at the moment, which could also then happen on the Bondtech stuff for the the silicon printing and stuff. It's really interesting times, I think. Anyone says that it saves huge amounts of poop. It does save poop. That's what I said. It saves poop and it saves a little bit of time, but not a huge amount of time. But there are printers out there that save way more poop than that does. It's a lot of money to spend on a printer to save some poop. Sorry. I mean, unless you're an absolute environmentalist first and maker second, then the extra money you're paying on the printer to save some poop is way more money than the cost of the poop that's wasted. Yeah, and that was the other thing, the XL, no enclosure, all that extra add-on thing that not only is expensive, but looks ugly, in my opinion. Coffee YouTube guy just did a video on pool. Does your printer pool? Yeah, poop pooping printers. Okay, so I said in my title, OMG USB long. So I've had this idea in my head for a little while. I don't want to make another microcontroller board. Let's make another one. Like just to have 5 million of them. No. And I get requests a few times, a lot. I've had even recently again, so here's my OMG S3. I mean, that's just ridiculous, right? Anyone see it? I mean, I've got little hands, yeah? I got little hands, what can I tell you? And so this is my little finger, which is my littlest finger, and this board is smaller.
Can you make it bigger?
Smaller than my little finger, right? It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Like, the only way I could get it narrower than this and only by, let's say, 2 millimeters is if I make it double-sided, which defeats the purpose because there are pads on the bottom. So, but I get asked a lot, surprisingly, hey, can you make a new OMG S3, but just with a USB connector on it? And so, you know, honestly, no. Well, I can, but I won't. But I sell these. That's the OMG USB. So it's a USB board, and it's got pads at the back on both sides with holes. So you can either put pogos in them, and I sell the pogos. You can buy them with the pogos. Or you can just solder the end of that to that, and you've got an OMG S3 with USB and buttons and whatever, and you've still got the pads, the other pads there broken out. Actually, I've got a picture of how that looks on SQUiXL. Yeah, so, yeah, well, no. Is it? Oh my god, why is that so small? I think I could find it on my own website. So it looks like this, right? You can solder them together, and sure, it makes it 2 millimeters thick because each board's 1 millimeter high. So you end up with that join, and it's 2 millimeters thick, but it works, right? One sec. Okay, I got a bit of a blood nose. I apologize if I need to do that again. I'm not sure what's going on. Bit of a nostril thing happening. So, anyway, but I've had some ideas in my head for a little while, but they all revolve around making another OMG S3 variant. And I don't really want to do that. Like, I have enough microcontroller boards. I don't want to add another one for a smaller dry air. I don't know what it is. It's been on and off for like a couple of months or something. Maybe I've blown a blood vessel or something up in my nose. It's not a full-on blood nose. It just you know, drips a bit of blood now and then for no particular reason. Like, it hasn't been doing it all morning. And it's sitting here, and all of a sudden I could feel it. I knew that something was going to happen. Anyway, so I thought, well, hang on. What's if I went the other direction? What's if? Okay. So here is the OMG USB. Why is that got so small? Okay. So here's the OMG USB, right? That's what it looks like. Let's turn these off. It's pretty basic. Very narrow board. JLC were not happy about how close I had these to the edge. And they're V-scored. So, you know, their V-scoring isn't that accurate. Cellulose spray, I get them as well. I do. Every night I spray my nose. So, yeah, I just don't know what it is. Ooh, what happened here? That's weird. Very weird. Anyway, so what I was thinking was, well, what's if this was a carrier board instead, and it went all the way down to here, and you could put an OMG just directly on it. So rather than soldering it just to the edge, you could plonk it down. But then I thought to myself, well, that's just the same, really. But why does it have to be just that long? Why can't it be longer? Like, what would be a use case for a long, narrow board? And that got my head spinning. I mean, a use case for me, I don't know. I can't think of anything. But like, I look, me personally, right? But I look at this. I look at the OMG S3 as something that, you know, it's either designed to fit in really tight spaces, or it's a perfect board for wearables, for little tiny thing for, right? You got battery charging. You got everything on this board, by the way. You got, apart from the radio, you got battery charging. You've got I2C fuel gauge. You know, RGB LED, 3.3 volt LDO. It's everything. It's a complete board, but just doesn't have the USB and the buttons and stuff. So making it just a bit longer and plonking and soldering the board down does nothing. So what if we made it even longer and we added stuff to it? What could we add that would be things that people like? By putting it down on another board, you're blocking access to all the I/O on the bottom of the OMG board. But, you know, what to put a GPU? Well, so I don't know what the answer to that question is, but I've got a couple of ideas, maybe. Like, okay, there's no battery connector on this board. Even with the USB OMG connected, there's no battery connector. Hey, Cable Tie. Hey, Peter, how you doing? Would perfectly fit as a breakout board in the middle of a breadboard. In the middle of a breadboard? Well, there's no pins on it, right? You've got no header pins. And adding header pins will just make the board twice as wide. I'm trying to think where I've got a breadboard. Would that fit? No, yeah, not really. Well, I could, yeah. Maybe. It's narrow enough that it will actually... I've never even thought of that, Rhoda.
HNS says breadboard is in the kitchen.
Yeah, haha. Okay, if I just go back to here for a second. I don't have my other camera set up. Okay, if there were header pins under this, which there obviously aren't, and you can't really get them on here, but this actually does, surprisingly, line up directly through the center with a pin on each side. Whoops. Can I get it straight? Oh, it's moving. Get it back to the middle. Get to the middle. It's backwards. Anyway, that's an interesting thought, but I hadn't yet. I'm not going to make a breakout board that... Well, there is. I've already got a carrier board for this that breaks out header pins, but it's not that narrow. What? Oh, okay. I wasn't following the chat. So, but I wasn't thinking like that. I was thinking what other peripherals could go on it, or variations of peripherals. Okay, so let's go the other direction. Let's here's the schematic. So if I add a oh, it's already there. If I had an OMG S3, a symbol, and oh, what are you doing over there? OMG S3. footprint. Oh, okay. I've updated my USB connector. Right, so here's the footprint for the OMG S3, which you can see here. It lines up like that, approximately. That's how it's designed to go together. Oh, is it BME 280? Temperature sensor? Maybe, but like, why would a temperature sensor on a board like this be useful as opposed to, let's say, an IMU? Would an IMU, like, so if this would be a really good board for OMG Spine. Well, I actually wanted the OMG Shtick, but I think Shtick's been taken already by someone with a board. What is OMG S3? OMG S3 is, where'd that window go? One of my microcontroller boards. So this is OMG S3. It's a little tiny ESP32 S3. It's tiny. It's 25 by 10 millimeters. 25 millimeters by 10 millimeters. It's a microcontroller board with everything on it, except for no broken out USB. It's got D plus D minus pads. So this board came about, the story behind this board came about because someone, no joke, this is the only reason I made this board. Apart from the fact that I always wanted to go smaller, because I'm a glutton for punishment. But I made this board because a guy, I think he's in Germany, he reached out to me. He was really disappointed. He bought some, he either bought a Tiny Pico Nano or a Nano S3 to go inside some N-gauge trains. And the measurement I had on the website wasn't accurate enough to, it was, it was 0.5 millimeter out or something, whatever on the board. It could have just been trimming of the edges or something, whatever it was. And my measurement meant that it should have fit inside his train, but he couldn't get it quite inside the train, right? Or we couldn't get it flat inside the train. And he was really disappointed and blah, 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 blah. And I'm looking at the boards and I'm looking at, like, I'm thinking, well, what can I really do? I mean, he could trim a little bit of the PCB off the edge or whatever. And, he was talking about his use case and whatever. And I'd been itching to make a small board, right? I think at that point, like my Nano S3 was the smallest board, ESP32 S3 board on the market. And then someone else brought out a board and it was totally different type of board, had way less features, but it was a little bit smaller. And I thought, I'm going to make the smallest board that no one could ever beat. So, but its aim was to fit inside his trains comfortably. And that's actually why I originally designed the OMG S3 as an experiment to see how much I could pack in and how small I could get it. And I also deliberately moved away from the castellated edges, one, because they're very expensive and it's impossible to panelize a board like this with castellated edges because there's no place to hold it, right? Or you've only got one end to hold it with, and that's going to flex in a panel. And the other reason, I mean, they're expensive and people solder to them. Like, not everyone puts one of my OMG boards on a carrier board. Sorry, one of my Nanos on a carrier board. People have been soldering wires to the castellated edges, and that is absolutely not what they're designed for. They're 1.27 millimeter pitch castellated edges, very thin plating, and all you need to do is tap your wire when you're soldering and you'll rip the plating off. And people were ripping plating off their boards. That's not, like, you don't solder wires to little tiny castellated edges, right? It's just, not unless you've got a really good tiny soldering iron. So I went with pads that are slightly bigger. I run headlong into the 0.5 millimeter type problem more times than I care to admit. Really? It's I mean, maybe I should have been more accurate with my measurements of the board, and the boards have also evolved a bit, right? They've all got mouse bites on the ends. It just depends on how I trim them, and whatever. So I made bigger pads. They're solderable. They're stronger pads. You can still rip them off if you're not careful, but it's much easier to solder them onto if you're going to solder wires. But it was also much cheaper and easier to panelize. That's what the OMG S3 is. So doing just this is pointless. Interesting. Did I leave the measurements in? I'm going to take them off just for this. It always opens on the other window. Sorry. Just in this project, I'm going to get rid of it. Okay. So I thought to myself, well, what if the board was over here? Right? What if the board was, I don't know how long that is, 60 millimeters. So there'd be 60 by 10, approximately, whatever. No, I'm just guessing, right? What else can we put in here? Like, would an IMU? How about an IMU? How about a pico blade? Hang on. Where is my? Sorry, I'm looking for a footprint, which I must have forgotten the name. Oh, maybe I called it microblade by accident. No. What did I call the freaking connector? Sorry, I'm just having a bit of a moment. I'm sure I called it something stupid. Yeah, pico blade. I did call it. Okay. So what's if I put a pico blade connector on? $100 edge connector, so it can go sideways. Right. I could put a quick connector on it. I could put a couple of maybe quick connectors on it. So you got to remember these pads don't need to be here because they're just going to route directly to. So we save some room there. I also thought instead of top buttons, could also put what are these buttons called? Hang on. I'm looking for the buttons, sideways buttons I've got on my. Oh God. Aren't they K2 something? These ones. Right. I can put sideways buttons. This is what I use on my tiny watch. Right. So if I did sideways buttons for boot and reset, I could have a little bit more room in the middle. I had an Altair. What's it now? Well, I'm not going to fit an Altair on here. What? $100. Oh, S100. An S100 edge connector. Yeah. Almost like SS50. What? Oh, you're talking about. Okay. Also got LEDs on here. Maybe I don't need. I don't know. But like if we put a battery connector, let me just get rid of these. Because they're just going to be traces, right? Oops. I'm going to have to redo the I redo the edges. Anyway, it was a joke. about the edge connector. No, I know it was a joke. It's okay. I was thinking maybe we should make it a PCI connector. No. Okay, so if we did that and we did a vertical, really? What have I? One day I'll remember the names of my own footprints. One day. All right. So we can do a battery connector on one side, but the battery connector sticking out, is that, would we want to have it sticking out sideways? Wouldn't it be better if it came up the top? Like this one here is designed to go to the side. Take photos of my computers in the day. I had an acoustic coupling modem. It was so cool back in the day, but so janky. So I think I've got the Pico, the vertical Pico played. Didn't I see that? Or should I call it micro? Oh, these are all. I thought I had one here. Pico blade vertical. Oop. Oh my god, what did I just do? That looks massive. Okay, well, it's going to be much bigger. But, and I don't even know if I got any of them. Yeah, I think our first modems were the same. Actually, it might have been, what was there something, there was something slower than that. It was our first modems, I think, was a 300 baud modem. Like it just did teletext and not much else. This is Australia though, you know, a bit backwards. Okay, if we try to do a vertical one, assuming I can fit it in, right? And the stemma QT, a vertical stemma QT connector. Like what else can we put on it? So the point is it would be a carrier board with a footprint for the OMG. So you'd buy it as a separate carrier and you'd stick, 300 baud was what we had. It was a long time ago. It was so slow. And of course, in Australia, we had so few bulletin boards at the time. Like it was just, and then you could never get on them. And it was way too expensive to dial overseas to try to get on an overseas bulletin board. I did a couple of times, got in so much trouble. So yeah, the idea is that this would just be a separate board that people could buy, and they could solder an OMG S3 onto it, right? I don't want to make a new board with all the OMG components. Okay, so let's. Why is that a 0.1? I don't know what's going on there. Did I really? Yeah. Interesting. I thought that was a box, but it's not. Okay. Just for now, just so I can visualize it. Set up for, yeah, Wildcat. Yeah, I tried setting up a Wildcat BBS a couple of times. When I launched the BBS, and I think I had 2 users who occasionally dialed in. That was it. It was going to be for gaming stuff, but never happened. 10, 10, 10. Why is this not lined up? So come on. So what would be useful on this? Would it be a an IMU? Like, you know, if this was a wearable, wouldn't like a 6-axis IMU be useful? What else would be useful? A connector to go to RGB LEDs? Do I need a level shifter for that? I think everyone wants to talk BBSs, which is fine. Someone wants to download keys for satellite TV. Lucky I wasn't around when he got raided. Wildcat was really hard to set up from memory. It's a long time ago, but I remember it being quite difficult to set up. I'm just going to edit this footprint again, and let's get rid of this, just so I can actually join these together, hopefully. Okay. What do you think about the sideways buttons versus the top buttons? Paradise City. Ran on Wildcat for a bit, then ran on remote access on Amstrad 1640. Hello, Rob. How you doing, mate? I was never into the Amstrads. They weren't a big thing here in Australia. There were a few around, but they weren't a big thing. Doodling centimeters for me. Got raided. He sold IPTV. He now owes $6 million in fines. Really? Wow. Easier to use than top when the board isn't soldered down to something. Sure. Yep. We can do that. That's a SW2. And that's SW1. I could have just swapped them around. Okay. Well, the pad names will be different. Of course they will. Okay, but let's say we've got... You move. Oh, bloody KiCad bug on the Mac. I think it's only the Mac. Okay, so we've got sideways buttons. Oh, I just wrecked what that was. We'll have to redo all these. Read all these later. There's a guy called the rocket scientist who created and hacked code that bypassed security systems on DigiCipher modules. What's a DigiCipher module? Uncle Amstrad, it was weird. I didn't like it. It had ASF XT running good old MS-DOS. Yeah, no. Pre-DOS, pre-PCs. What are we designing? So I get a lot of requests. Doesn't matter, I get requests. Well, I'm designing a long carrier board that an OMG S3 can plonk onto, that has not just USB, but other stuff. I don't know what though. I'm trying to get. No one's. I mean, I've suggested IMU. I know Peter suggested. Matt suggested the BME 280, the temperature sensor, but I'm not sure about. They're quite expensive, and I mean, if it's a wearable, a temperature sensor probably doesn't make a lot of sense. So anyway, I'm just stuffing around with what could be a very long carrier board that still says 10 millimeters wide, like the Omgusb. Quick connector for USB comms, but we've got a USB connector on it here. How would you wear it? It's not a matter of, well, you, when I say wearable, it's not a watch is a wearable. Wearable as in people would, they integrate little microcontroller boards into clothing to do things like LEDs or whatever, right? That's what I meant by wearable. Like, it's like this is a really tiny board. I know for a fact that there are people who solder batteries onto it and wires onto it and put them in clothing for LED control on costumes and stuff. So for like that, but then how do you charge the battery? You need other wires and another breakout and blah blah blah, right? If you want to buy the part. Yeah, but you mean for something like a BME 280? Like adding the pads takes space, and then for the people that may or may not want to solder one on, they're actually quite difficult to solder a MEMS or that type of device onto a, like, how would they do it? That they need hot plate or what? Yeah, I don't know. I've never been a fan of here's some empty pads, populate whatever you want on it, or like I feel like if the part was worth having, it probably should be on there to start with, shouldn't it? But yeah, maybe. So I'm just okay. So we've got quick connector for. Excuse me, I can even fit these in. That's a bit close to the edge. Quick connector for I2C breakout. Battery connector, vertical at this point. Yeah, they're not easy necessarily to get on, and then it's a little tiny board. Like again, it's 10 millimeters wide, and it's packed with parts. So, well, the OMG is anyway. Yeah. So, okay, let's just for the fun of it, BME 270. Here's an IMU. Oh, actually, I think it would need to go that way. Can't remember what orientation. It is an IMU. It'll need some friends. It's also shown CPM. Poor CPM. Yeah. CPM should have won. Oh well. You just got the go live. Really? He broke up with his girlfriend, so she called the cops on him. Wow. Okay. Well, I'm running out of ideas, folks. That's okay. We can just make the boards smaller. Small's also good. There you go. 54 just saved 6 millimeters. I didn't get together with IBM and PC, Microsoft. Yeah, I know. but it could have been cool. Coulda, woulda. Hey, Graham, how you doing? Oh, and hello, John Clayton. I know you asked, you commented about the quick for USB, but I didn't say hi. Anyone else I didn't say hi to? Don't know. Oops. Wait. World's first VT200 emulator on the PC in Pascal. If only Pascal would have won the Pascal C war. I used to love coding in Pascal. Turbo Pascal. Well, okay. I don't know what else to put on here. About an ambient light sensor. Okay, so here's a light sensor. Maybe that'd be useful. That's actually near the power LED. It's about here. So maybe the light sensor should be, yeah, I don't know where. BDSC. C in Pascal would be like pie and ice cream. Yeah, Turbo Pascal was great. We ended up with shit like Java. What a terrible tech world we live in. I'm just looking at all my parts up here on the wall, trying to think what else can we put. What else? Why don't we squeeze an FPGA in? I'm kidding. What about an amplifier? What about audio out? Or a microphone? What about audio in? A flux capacitor. What else? I mean, I could put a little buzzer on there, but you wouldn't really hear it. How about a DAC? Hello, Cape Cad. But, well, a DAC doesn't do anything unless you've got inputs or outputs for it, right? So what would you use a DAC for? My 1984 boat has a flux gate compass for the autopilot. I don't know what a flux gate compass is. And it's weird hearing that a boat from 1984 has autopilot. Right, but sounder voltage out to what though? Like, why not an amplifier? Like, if you want sound out, why not put a I2S amp on there and get real sound out, like to a speaker? I mean, I get voltage out, but what would for a little tiny board like this? What would you be using voltage out for? Flex connector to add an OLED. Yeah, problem is so many different flex connectors for so many different OLEDs and standards and whatever, like which one? Like, I feel like this is a board that gets concealed. So having it connect to things that you need to see potentially, like I'm not sure. Like, I've already got other boards that are so much better for things for when you're not concealing them, right? That have all the features you need, except for a DAC out, right? Because especially if remove the DAC from the S3. The one I sell them. Yeah. Got to remember how small this board is. Relatively. This is such a stupid thing to do. No, that's still too big. There you go. That's how big the board is. I'm just putting the board up on the screen. It's tiny. It's not the right board to be plugging the screen into. I don't think. Like the little, what do you call it, screens. Like I've got those on. Do I have one here? I sell 2 different size shields with screens on them, and the 90, what is it, 180 by 90? Is it 180 by 60? Whatever screen, I believe, is bigger than this. Like this board is as wide as a USB connector, literally. I don't have a screen here. Damn. I got the big ones. They're the big ones that I do. But I thought I had a small one here. Probably somewhere. Who knows? I got stuff everywhere on this desk. The second I stop looking, I'll find one. But I'm sure I had one lying around here somewhere. Oh well. So the more I put on it, the more expensive it's going to be. And the more expensive it's going to be, the more, the less people are going to want to use it, right? I guess this is really a thought experiment, because I keep getting asked by people, hey, can you make a custom version of this board? The problem is, hey, I'm all up for making custom versions of boards, but when I say to them, well, how many are you after? They go, 5. I go, yeah, not really. Like, if you want to order 500, I'll make a custom variant. But, designing new boards and, getting panels and stencils and doing a production run for an order of 5 boards doesn't really make a lot of financial sense. Yeah. Okay, let's assume that I could even... I feel like I want to make it smaller. This is a really big connector. So we've got buttons off to the side, but we've got connectors top. That even... Yeah, I don't know. I thought I had 3D models for these. I should have a model for that. Very hard to see with these background colors.
Cian, Chad has disconnected.
Oh, be quiet. Okay, that's a bit better. could probably squeeze that down in here. And move that over. Assuming I can, well, I should be able to route it, but when I say assuming I'd be able to route it, like, there's always a way. Well, so if we do what happened there? Try it again. Duplicate Y, X. And put another ground here. Oh, what happened there? No, I probably don't want to do that, actually. That's a bit stupid. Do you not want to do via in pad if someone has to solder this on? The other problem is this pad here I'm going to have to solve. So I'm going to have to stick like a massive yeah, that won't have to, that can't be a via. It's going to have to be a like a plated hole. And where's a plated? Top, bottom. Okay, that's too big. Well, actually, I don't know. So if you think about it, it would have to be something silly like that, where they can solder the ground pad from underneath. But they can't hand solder this anyway. It's going to have to be hot aired. So like I feel like I'm going to have to pre-populate these with OMG S3 boards and ship them with an OMG S3 on it. Do you know what I mean? Can I thought I had a footprint set up for this. Did I not save it with a footprint? With a model. 3D models. Did I just really do that? Try it again. I can't believe I didn't make that black. I should really fix that. Oh, don't select it. So it's going to be like that, right? I need to obviously get rid of that bit of board there. U1 on the board. Oh, it's just left over silk like that I haven't removed. It'll be in, I've got these turned off, so that can go away, that can go away. I'll have to get rid of those, or they'll have to be moved. There you go. Temp light, maybe accelerometer, that's my usual, maybe a mic. Well, that's what I was thinking, right? I've got an IMU, I mean, I need and friends, and I've got a light sensor. Seeing a microphone on, I'd have to make a bit more space. Catch you later, Rob. Yeah, have a safe and happy New Year and Christmas. If I don't see you before or hear from you before. Right, but there's no place to put external LEDs right now. So if you want to control RGB LEDs from this, I need a breakout for you to be able to do that, right? I mean, I can just pass pads through to the bottom of the board. So you get these pads here through to the bottom. But that kind of, you know, I could just stick a 3-wire, like a JST, like an SH3 pin that you could put, you know, power, ground, and data on. But yeah. Yeah, that would require breaking that out as well. Well, it's looking cool, but like, aren't I better off just making one single board? So if I have to make the OMG S3, which has a cost to make it, right? And then I'm just plunking it on this board, which has a cost to make it, where the board, like the board would only be for the OMG S3 board, right? Obviously, it's not compatible with anything else. I'm better off just making it all one board. Okay, wearables, and that suggests external LEDs to me. You know, I agree, external LEDs, but right now, putting a microphone on won't help because there's no way to connect external LEDs, right? So when the OMG S3 board itself is by itself, you've got access to the pads, but the pads are going to be used connecting to the board. So I'd need to add the ability for people to still connect things. If I'm going to do that, right, this is turning into a, like, this would be more expensive to make as two different boards joined together than it would be to make it as one board. From a cost and labor point of view, right? Not from making a whole new board. So for this board, without the OMG S3, I'd still need panels, stencil, set up the line to manufacture it, right? And then I'd be taking OMG S3 boards I've already made that have already gone through the process of making and doing whatever, and putting them on as part of the reflow process, right? Pick and place them, put them on, reflow. So I end up with the cost of manufacturing two different boards together, which just makes the whole thing more expensive. So yeah, it would work out no more expensive, but most likely less expensive for me to just do it as a new board. But it's a new SKU, right? But it's a new SKU anyway as an add-on. Well, it's a new SKU anyway, because it would make no sense me selling this board without an OMG S3 on it, because it's really hard for people to put it on. Thanks, man. Call it the OMG S3XC. Yeah. Or the OMG what? You just can't get that pronunciation across, right? OMG what? It doesn't read as well as it sounds. You break the flag. It's okay. Yeah. I just don't know if it's going to be a board that's going to sell, as in it's going to be like the OMGS3 is already pretty unique, right? And look, I'm trying to think of how many I've sold. I might have sold a couple of thousand of them. I don't know, maybe, definitely over 1,000, maybe probably over 1,200. I'm trying to remember how many Pico chips I've gone through on them. Probably somewhere between 1,400 and 2,000 of them are sold, right? So it's not nothing, but just as the board like this, it's potentially more versatile for all these. It's more versatile for a lot of use cases, just more work for people to make carriers for, to solder up, whatever they're going to do. I have definitely sold less OMG USB boards in comparison. You know, maybe 400 of those or 500 of those. So there are definitely people who are wanting the board without USB. So without USB, without the buttons and whatever, like I feel like. So when I make a board, it's a tricky exercise. Like I think the calculations I used to use when I would work out if a board was worth making or not from a cost to get to market, right? And to be fair, my decision making on cost to get to market 2 years ago was very different to today. Back then, it was, I didn't have to be so conscious of my cost to get to market and return on it, right? But it's thanks, John. Point of something like an OMG spinning your own board to put on, correct, or just soldering directly to a really tiny board. I'm much more concerned about my cost to get to market now because I need to sell, a certain number. Like there's an overhead for my first run, right? There's a stencil cost, there's the panels, and there's a minimum viable number of panels I need to get. Otherwise, my PCB cost, goes into the dollars per PCB. And then, of course, there's a massive shipping cost when I'm shipping the first lot of panels. And, so I just did to give you an example, by the way, just it's part of the same conversation, right? But my panels for my new Tiny S3s arrived, my Tiny S3D, with the bottom, probably won't go in focus, with the two jumpers and the breakout for the 3.3 volt. So I've got these, they arrived. And I also, although I haven't actually hit the order button yet, have done the Feather S3D because I'm out of those. So I need to order more stencils. I need to order more panels, right? So I did a Feather S3D, and that also has now, that already has the the enable broken out, but I've added the ability to cut the power LED as well, right? So to give you an example of, because of this change, I also have to get a new stencil. I have to move things around to get it all in. So I've got new panels and the, how did I do? So 50 panels is my minimum that I order, right? So 50 panels, a new stencil, and shipping is $480 US, okay? $480 it costs me before I can even manufacture these boards. That's so you can treat this like it's a new design. So if I was to get I wouldn't get 50 panels for these. I'd be getting, because there's a lot more boards per panel, I'd be getting maybe 20 panels, 25 panels. But there's also an additional cost on these because they're so narrow. They charge me extra to V-score them, like a lot extra. Like I think it cost me $65 extra to get them V-scored because they're so narrow. They're only 10 millimeters wide. But the point is that 400 and whatever $60 US for the Feather S3 things, I have to eat that, right? It's a one-off. Like the next time I order panels, I don't have to pay for a stencil. My shipping comes down, but I still have to eat that cost, and so that makes the cost per PCB much higher on the first run. Also, automate the solder paste. My pick and place doesn't. I've got a separate machine at the start, automatic solder paste, like an automatic stencil printing machine. So it goes through the stencil, it does that, then it goes over a conveyor to the pick and place machine, and then over to the oven. So it's all automated. So for me to go and release a new board, I've got to look at the fact that, you know, the minimum cost for a production run for the first run is probably more than double what it would be for subsequent runs. Hello, John. Talking about penalizing that design. Last night I assembled a new design and realized I'd screwed up the penalization. I have slide switches on opposite sides and didn't leave a gap. Yeah. Well, I got the same problem here, right? This is obviously just mucking around placing. Hey, Defbomb, hello. How are you? Lots of people coming in from long ago. Yeah, I got the same thing here. I just put these sideways ones on. I'm going to have exactly the same problem. But like for something like this, I probably would put tabs on. So I'd have a tab here that joins them together with a gap. You get less boards per panel, but I'm not having to clean the whole edge of that whole entire thing, and I don't have to worry about cleaning the edge where the button overhangs. Oh no, I've done silly things like that before. I can't tell you how many times I've come so close when I'm penalizing that I would have another, like here, another board here, right almost where the USB touches. Like seriously, we're talking about like not even 0.5 millimeter clearance on the pick and place machine, like placing a part down next to where the antenna hangs over. And like I've been lucky, like it's not like I did it by design. I've been lucky that I missed it, but it was just okay. So I feel like if I'm going to do something like this, then I would rethink the board. If I was going to put the OMG, or if I was going to put the MCU stuff directly on the board, I would change how I do it. So I could then, for instance, maybe, I'm just saying maybe, I don't know. You're going to see how big this is going to look. Pinhead, right. Not that it has to be breadboard compatible, but it's not about being breadboard compatible. It's about being usable, right? But like I'd stick this on, like something like this. But look how big that is. That's just a 2.54 millimeter header. Yeah. Look how damn big it is compared to the size of the board. But I'd have to do something like that so people could solder things onto it, right? If I made it a 2 millimeter pitch, they can't put headers in if they wanted to. And if I made it a 1.27 millimeter pitch, well, I know you can buy 2 millimeter pitch headers and 1.27 millimeter pitch headers, but then you can't really connect wires to them easily, right? You can't connect DuPont wires to them or whatever. They need to be 2.54 millimeter. So I'd have to do something like that and then try to squeeze all the electronics down here, which I could do, probably. But it's a complete redesign of the board. Like, it's a lot of work. I don't know. Like, it's just. So what have you been up to, Scott? Are you still fixing hardware? Are you still YouTubing? I have to be honest, I don't watch a lot of YouTube these days. I've been watching a lot of stuff that has not maker related. Rather than put the image on this new board, could you not copy and paste the same OMG layout and new board and populate it? Sure, technically I could, but there would be no advantage in doing that. Like the whole point would be to optimize the space to be able to do more. If I did that, I still couldn't put any breakout headers or anything, right? You're doing 2 or 3 videos a week still. Wow, man, how have you got the stamina to keep doing that? I've been unable to get my shit together to make videos for a little while. I've started many. I've got many even halfway through the edit process. I just can't. I've just not been able to do it. Like motivation and time and stuff. So good on you for still going at it. What would be thinner? Sorry. Yeah, big challenge. I mean, I did that for obviously years at the start, but yeah, you've been doing it for a while now. Good on you. Good on you for staying at it. I mean, I dream about, this year I'm going to make more videos and start sharing cool things and whatever. But I ended up I just never get there. I struggle to even just get my shit together every week for a stream. It's just a really, really busy patch I'm going through at the moment. Anyway, no, I'm spending probably more than 60% of my time contracting, like doing contract work at the moment. So that's chewing most of my time, to be honest. And I've been doing a lot less design and making new products because it's a shit marketplace at the moment to be designing and trying to introduce new products into. So yeah, lots of challenges. So how many pins will we need to break out? Like, we could get away with. Well, we need a ground. We've got a battery connector. We'd need to put a switch. Fuck. Okay. Well, I have an EN on here. Which one is it? Here, number 9. So this is I'm just gonna steal this. Um, 3-volt enable. So this pin here, you can high or low to turn on and off the 3.3 volts to microcontroller, right? So, but to use that, I need to put a switch. But putting a switch on the board, people won't be able to get to. So I need to break out that onto the headers so people can put an external switch, right? So, the switch might be somewhere not near the board, if that makes sense, right? So many unknowns. Like, if I knew exactly how every single person would use it, then I can custom make the board to be exactly how they'd want to use it. I mean, people do crazy things with my boards. I've seen people cut holes in my boards and do all sorts of things, right? Cut halfway through the header pins on my boards to make them castellated or to squeeze them into things and stuff. So I never know what people are going to do with my boards. But okay, so we would need. I'm just going to do this. So we need to break out a ground. Doesn't matter which one it is, right? We need to break out power. It would have to be 3v3. Although if they're running LEDs, they could do it straight off the battery. So I could do VBAT, right? But I would also need to break out 3.3. Oh my God, stop hitting enter. I'd need to break out the enable. And then I'd need to break out some I/O, right? Whatever they're going to be. 2, 3. That only leaves 4 I/O broken out, right? So, plus you've got stemma QT over here. So that's already going to give you 3.3 ground and 2 I/O. But those... So the question is, am I breaking out the second bus? I'm already using the first bus for the fuel gauge, and I can put this on the same bus, and then this could break out a second bus. Piggyback board using a dense header for the interconnect. Header system is used in the piggyback. This board is 10 millimeters wide. So there's no... I mean, I've got a carrier board for this, and it's massive. I know it's a big thing on the screen here. This whole board is 10 millimeters wide. There is no piggyback headers we're putting on there. You know, even the surface mount headers won't fit. But there's no... You can't solder as a piggyback. So this was starting out as a carrier board for this. So... That was the start of what this process was. There's going to be a carrier from our OMG board. Like this, right? It would sit on top. But, yeah, there's no place to stick headers. Yeah. Not through hole wires and surface mount. They're too wide. It's... Hang on. Do they have... If I go header, do they have versions that have surface mount? They do. Okay, 1x8 vertical surface mount. Okay. So if you look at the requirement for surface mount, I mean, I can't get two next to each other. And if I try to offset them, I still can't get... Just doesn't fit. Yeah, all good. All good, Scott. Yeah, this is a hang on. This is the board that is the one that's sitting on that carrier, right? It's 25 millimeters by 10 millimeters wide. So yeah, it's tiny. And the carrier I've got for it is I can find it. G carrier. Video viewer. Right, this is the carrier board for it, which is obviously it's big. It's designed. This is designed to have headers, so you can just put the OMG S3 on that. And this is a reference design. I don't actually sell these. I probably should put some of them in the store if people want some. But you can see how much wider this is. I mean, that's the 10 millimeters there for the board, and you know, headers, USB, buttons, power. But that just makes it a microcontroller board, right? And it makes it a bigger microcontroller board than just going for my tiny S3. So yeah, so this is about something different. This is about not being able, not about, like these broken out pins is I mean, they don't have to be, right? It could be castellated edge, right? I mean, they could be sitting like that. What's going to happen if I don't know what will happen if I try to render that. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. That whole time, I didn't know it wasn't on that screen. I'm so sorry. Oh my God. I had the screen covered. That's the carrier board I was talking about. This is the carrier. As you can see, much wider. Header pins on both sides broken out. So this is, as I said, it's a reference design. It's KiCad files are there. If people want to use this as a base to make something for their, you know, or to integrate the OMG, they can use this as a reference. I mean, see, that could be castellated. Forget about the board on top. Let's turn off the model. You know, so that these could be castellation on the side, but I don't know. I mean, it just, again, castellating adds cost. They can be castellated edges with big pads to solder onto. I don't know. Hey, DIY in the ghetto. But castellation implies that people have to do something extraordinary to be able to connect to it. Where if they were just header pins, then that wouldn't, you know, that would be obvious what people can do. Has anyone ever seen like DuPont wires, but for a smaller pitch, like 2mm pitch? DuPont? Is that a thing? Does that exist? We've got a sinus infection. Oh no. Hate sinus infections. I get them lots of times. If I could find like a standardized, or if I could find 2.54mm to 2mm wires, right, that were still like DuPont type thing, or even 2.54 to 1.27, I would gladly put 1.27mm pitch headers on here. I'd even supply the boards with the headers. It would be awesome. Like, they're tiny, sure, but if people had an easy way to plug wires into them without having to solder, that would be great. Thanks again, John. Yeah, I've never seen them. I've looked a couple of times. Type pre-made wires are 2mm. Yeah, but that's, I'm talking about like a regular thing where I can either point people to, or I can supply stuff. I get custom cables made all the time, but I don't want to be making, the problem with just standard 2mm pitch JST, yeah, I could always go, yeah. Normally they need to go in a housing as opposed to individual wires. You know, I'm talking about, you know, oh, not that. I mean, if I put a board on there and had 1.27mm pitch or 2mm pitch, 1mm pitch connectors, whatever, and you know, I had to supply a cable that broke that out to 2.54mm. That doing that with the cable and the extra cost and hassle of having to make sure I've got enough and they're in stock and all that type of stuff is just, I'm better off just putting 2.54mm on there and let everyone have access to it, right? Like, you know, easily. Which is this? Yeah, it's 1.27. No, it's 1.2. I've got these headers here. It's for a project I can't talk about as in a client project. These are 1.2 millimeter pitch headers, which is pretty crazy. Not 1.27, 1.2. You can get all sorts of crazy headers. Do I have a... So I'm curious to see how these line up with my other... Yeah, it's crazy that they're like the fact that you can get all different pitches. Yeah, and they're really expensive, obviously, but they're not custom made. Like the client found a supplier for them. They're just horrifically expensive, and they're round pins, not square pins. Anyway, yeah, keeping it flexible enough that anyone can use it the way they're used to using it, but it's just yeah, they lose a lot of space for it. All good, all good. So I guess this is not going to be a carrier board after all. So if that's the case, well, I don't need to. I'll need to cost it out to see if it's even worth doing. Like every single part in my production's gone up. I just had to order a whole bunch of parts. I don't know what's going on, but everything has gone up again between like 5 and 200%. It's crazy. John, are you still around? Have you been seeing same thing? Cortex-M connector is 2.51. So the which one? Cortex-M connector. You're talking about little tiny. You're talking about like one like this. Hang on. No, these are a 14. Wait, where did I put them? Yeah. Get out. You're talking about like these? This is a 2x7. Wait. You're talking about it's surface mount 2x7? You're talking about that type of thing? Like with a mini IDC that then breaks out? Yeah. That's what this is. But this is the stupid 14 pin one, not the 10 pin one. The one that the J-Link Mini 3 uses. If a customer pre-soldered and tinned those U1 pads, couldn't they put like well they wouldn't be able to not tinning it. It'd have to be solder paste. Like you couldn't. What do you mean by a BMG surface mount? I mean you'd have to hot air it, right? So this is designed. You'd have to put paste on there. I mean you could tin it and then stick it on a hot plate, right? And then reflow it again, sure. But you could also just use paste and do the same thing. The problem with tinning it is you've already lost your flux then. Right, but they'd have to do it twice. They have to tin the pads, then put more flux, on top of that, put the board on, and then hot air it. Or hot air it or hot plate it. Better off hot plating it. But you couldn't do that if there were header pins on it. So missed why the connector. Oh, no, we were just talking about, like, if you look at how much space a 2.54 millimeter connector takes, it would have been good. Hey, Art Daniel, it would have been great if I could use a smaller pitch one, and things like DuPont cables existed for 2 millimeter as well as 2.54, or 1.27 millimeter DuPont connectors, wires, or 1.27 to 2.54 millimeter ones. Like, you can't get them. The whole standard of the way those connect, the way the cables work, like this, right? They're all 2.54 to 2.54. Like, there is no, I've never seen anything that was like 2.54 to a smaller pitch. And that would just be great. I was just commenting how it would have been good. I could use a connector that's half the size and people could still do the same thing. But they're just not available, which is a shame. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to have to cost this up. It's going to be a very expensive board from a BOM point of view, like compared to my other microcontroller boards, and probably end up being less versatile. Long and skinny, but still requiring some form of headers. Yeah, I don't know. But I don't think it makes sense as a carrier. It has lots of boards and cable breakouts, and it's fairly small to put on a board. I know, but you can't get a 2x5 1.27 millimeter pitch on one end that breaks out to a 2.54. I've tried. I couldn't get anywhere. So, like, did I take it back to work? Did I take it back to my client? Right, I was trying to get a cable. So this is what you're talking about, except this is the 14-pin one, right? But a 10-pin one of those, right? I was trying to get a cable that went from this to 2.54 millimeter at the other end. Yeah, you can't get them. I can get them made with a minimum order quantity of, 50 or 100. I needed 4. You can't get them. So that's the problem. There's, lots of connectors, a lot of options for that, a lot of different pitches, and a lot of things you can plug into them. But like, this is not in any way usable by a user at the other end. You can't plug anything into it unless it's the same pitch. So the idea would be, if I was going to stick a connector like this on a board to break out all the I/O or whatever, it would have to break out into something that people use all the time, which is 2.54 millimeter, and you can't get them. So I have enough custom cables for my different products and stuff that I have to buy and keep in stock, and as it is right now, and it's a pain. I know, first world problems, but like, it's a pain to have to. I can't tell you how many times I can't sell a Reflow Master Pro because I'm out of thermocouples and they haven't been delivered yet because I wasn't on top of them and I ran out, quicker than I thought I was going to, and whatever. Or it's the same thing with ICs. Like, it happened to me recently where I couldn't do a manufacturing run because I was out of one part. I got them within a couple of days, but I thought I had another reel. I'm still positive I had another reel somewhere. I can't find it. I must have burned through them. and I had to stop. Like I was literally stopping in the middle of the production run because I was out of parts. It's a hard thing to juggle. So anything I have to make that's custom, like a custom cable, either I have to, order shit tons of them to make sure I never run out, and then I end up stuck with a whole bunch, or it just becomes a problem to manage. I posted something in Discord. Doop. I've seen those, but that's not firstly, it's not a nice thing to have. So I was looking at those because I was trying to find a 14-pin one, and you can't get them, right? Oh, hang on. So this is what Bruce is talking about. But can you imagine? Here's a board, and by the way, if you want to use any of the I/O on the board, you got to get one of these as well, which is bigger than the board. Yeah, that, you know what I mean? It's not a nice solution. Get back on my smart inventory system. No. Yeah, no. I've got so many things on my want to get done list, and that is very low. Too slow. What? I've seen it 127, very small PCB adapter. Yeah, it's not a PCB adapter I'm after. That's what I'm saying. Like, I want a cable. I want a cable that has this on one end and this on the other end, on one cable. Yeah. Then that's all they need. They don't need an adapter board. Yeah, sure. As I said, I couldn't use it because the ST used their proprietary 14-pin one, of which they only use 4 pins. Unfortunately, 2 of them are on the outside, so I need the 14-pin connector. Didn't know that works slow down enough that I've actually been able to do some coding. Oh, really? Oh, nice. Very cool. I have been, just amongst all the things I've been doing, I am currently writing my own graphics library for SQUIXL. So it's obviously very heavily influenced by Larry's one, the BB LCD SPI, whatever it's called. But I'm at a point where I'm diverging too much from his library, and a lot of the stuff that's in there I don't need. And so I'm actually, so I've got an update that I'm holding off on SQUIXL, which I've also managed to get it onto the latest Arduino core 3.34, which is great. But I am in the middle of writing a whole new graphics library, and then I have to port and redo the PNG library. So, and the JPEG library. Anyway, because why not? Because I like coding so much, why don't I just take on more insane coding challenges? Insane. But anyway, aren't those connectors shown on your screen used for ribbon cables a lot? They are, absolutely, but not that they're all 2.54 to 2.54 or 1.27 to 1.27. But you can't get cables 1.27 to 2.54. You can get adapters that let you plug 2 cables in. So you got 1.27 in there, plug it in, plug in another cable, you get 2.54 out. But, that's a really janky solution for someone who wants to just break out some I/O on this, right? So if there was a cable that if they just did that, that'd be better. But again, custom. We need custom cables. Yeah, 1.27 is great. It's great for a broken out cable. It's not good for a soldering wires to break out to other things. Catch you later, Scott. Yeah, it's good catching up. Have a safe and happy New Year, and Merry Christmas. To everyone. Yeah, I think I'm gonna wrap this. It's almost 2 hours. I think I'm streaming next week. Oh, I don't know. It's Christmas Eve here. It's the 24th. So I don't know if I'm going to stream or not. I may not. But if I don't, I wanted to wish you all a very safe and happy Christmas, New Year's. I hope, look, there's I'm not trying to go left field here. Crazy shit happening in the world. And I think Christmas is going to be a problematic time for communities around the world, maybe this year. And I really hope everyone is safe. Be vigilant. Be careful. Be vigilant. Hey, Color Maker. But I hope you all have those of you taking holidays, I hope you have a good break. Nice relax. Get to do some making. And if I don't stream next week, then I will likely not stream again until after New Year's. So, yeah, everyone, thank you. Thanks for all your support throughout the year. And thanks for still coming back and watching me stream aimless stuff. But look after yourself, everyone. Thank you, John. And Bruce, yep. Yeah, wishing you all just be safe. Most important, be safe, okay? Catch you all later. Bye.